and the black line,
the black line.
which is the, would be the,
That's gonna expand everything here.
That has to be shaded in to be
that would
red.
be the black line.
Yeah,
the black
over
line.
here.
Which
Or
is
the
the,
whole
would
thing.
be the,
Yeah,
and
okay.
the whole.
That's gonna
Are we proposing
that's
all
gonna
of it?
expand
This area,
Okay.
everything.
Yeah, yeah, and that has to be shaded in to be
That was-
red.
This is the town.
Right, yeah, I just was,
Yeah,
And my grandfather's place.
so this is,
And then
this is gonna be the mixed use.
the church, Methodist church,
That works.
the post office.
oh, well, yeah. Is
Come-
this the road there,
The road is on this side of the post. This is the post office.
oh, okay,
and the road-
yeah,
the road's
okay,
here.
the road,
And
because
then
the
it's
road
all-
is
all-
west of the post office,
Yeah.
yeah,
And then it's all the houses on High, or on Lehigh.
right,
And then there's a couple of houses along.
Right.
Lima.
right, right.
All things that probably should be in the mixed use hamlet.
Yes.
Different uses.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, obviously,
Yes.
because I mean, that should be because,
Yeah.
and,
It's a park.
Yeah.
It's kind of.
but, yeah, I mean, because the nature of the
Yeah.
structures that are in,
I heard the Methodist church sold too.
it's
That's what I heard.
really.
Might be the same guy that bought the Catholic church.
Did that sell?
Yes. Sold that Friday.
Is it not within that? Oh, no.
Yeah.
You know what his intentions are?
I
I've heard it.
I've heard it.
Oh,
Yep.
I mean,
Yes,
maybe he'll do something and retain the building,
maybe.
you know,
Yeah.
such a landmark. We all think it's a
Yeah.
landmark, but
I know. Yeah. Mhm.
okay. But that both just sold, so that's kind of curious. Interesting.
Oh, yeah. And have you heard anything about the skeletons? The house right next to.
I read some things on Facebook, so I'm looking at this like, oh, I never saw that, but it's just like, oh, because going past tonight, I'm looking, there it is.
John Lebeck, the guy says that they're not two separate, it's one.
It's one.
And he bought it, it said skeleton embrace.
There's another one on Hamlet Drive, John said.
Yeah, this,
Yeah.
I guess is a,
Yeah.
it sounded like there was more than one out in the town.
I don't, I think it's harmless.
So what do we?
There's
We
no-
don't have
nothing
anything
to
to do with
show.
that, no.
Skeleton embrace. And skeletons can't have sex if they don't have genitalia.
By the way.
I told Dan the other day, I was like, when I look, all I see is they're forever in love. Can't
That's
say it.
There you
it,
go.
that's it.
Just like, oh my God, what else could there be on Facebook?
Yeah. Yeah, I had a call
That's
first
something,
thing Monday morning. Guy was very irate.
really.
I had John look into it. Well, at first I tried. There's no code.
You know, I guess if it were really something that was
Yeah.
explicit, you know, in bad taste, I don't even know it then. I mean, what you could do on somebody's property. Just so. Oh my God.
Yep.
You sure you wanted it?
I've been thinking it's like,
Um,
if my side work were a little steadier, but
But then
I
there's
really
things
do.
that come up with regard to.
Supervisor.
good evening. Welcome to the October 23rd meeting of the Rush Town Board. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ma'am, would you call the roll, please?
Councilwoman Morelli,
Here.
Councilman Chase,
Here.
Councilman Kais,
Here.
Supervisor Wilver,
Here
and excused, but will be attending mid-meeting.
by Zoom, he's at a meeting right now. It should be ending and he'll be joining us. You wouldn't by chance have the pen over there?
Yes, I do. 10, 2.
Thank you very much. Announcements, just one thing really to announce, last week when it was a little cooler, our heating system attempted to kick on and, pump on this second boiler is seized over the summer and will need to be replaced for got an estimate for $1,850, which is within my limit to spend, but just thought everyone might like to know. Moving on to the public comment period. If you wish to speak, 3 minutes, please.
List if you want to go off the list. It's up to you.
Pardon?
No, that's.
Is that?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry,
Good.
I'm sorry. Thanks.
I'm Mary from Carmel. I volunteer at a Horses Friend as a researcher. However, I'm here tonight to express my own personal point of view. Some Rush residents are accusing a Horses Friend of being a private commercial horse sporting operation, engaging in nonprofit or for-profit activities, and that money is being used to support a private person. Under federal nonprofit law, these accused actions are considered fraud if they were true, which they aren't. Boarding horses was approved as a funding source by the federal government when they designated a Horses Friend as a 501c3 nonprofit organization. The Horses Friend is abiding by all applicable nonprofit laws. It is totally false to accuse them of fraud. These false accusations negatively impact a Horses Friend's reputation and affects their ability to receive donations and recruit volunteers. Town residents have the right to complain about the lease all they want, but accusing a Horses Friend of misusing their nonprofit status crosses the line into damaging a Horses Friend itself. They have done nothing to deserve this treatment. If people don't want a Horses Friend in Rush, they should just say so. Don't falsely accuse them of a crime. There are also false assumptions. The grant donor has waited for over a year to give $125,000 to the town. There are plenty of other places that the donor could grant that money to. No one should assume that the donor will continue to wait. No one should assume that a Horses Friend will wait either. Disagreements over the lease are between the town and the residents, but they impact a Horses Friend. It has been unable to apply for additional grants for their program that rely on a long-term lease. Kids will be riding in the snow again this winter because the grant has been on hold for over a year. There is no guarantee that a renegotiated lease would be approved either. A Horses Friend could choose to spend the next year looking for a new home rather than continuing this never-ending battle over their lease. This battle is bad for their reputation. It's bad for their long-term survival. It's just plain bad for a Horses Friend. Town board, please educate your residents. A Horses Friend is operating legally as a nonprofit at White Springs Farm. The donor could rescind their grant. A Horses Friend could remain on their current lease and move when it expires. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's seats over here, folks. There's a couple of empty seats around.
Anyone else? Copies. You.
Thanks, John.
My name's John Morelli. I live at 535 Five Points Road. So there appears to me to be a considerable amount of confusion about what is and what is not the truth about a horse's friend regarding the town's lease for it to occupy a portion of White Springs Farm. Some of what has been presented is outdated. Some things have changed or otherwise been resolved, and some claims appear simply to be untrue. So in preparation for the upcoming election and the question of whether to extend this lease, I would request that the town board, to the extent it is able, provide voters with either a confirmation or denial of the following 10 questions. 1, yes or no, that in addition to serving kids from Rochester, a horse's friend has also served our local youth. 2, yes or no, that a horse's friend has and continues to improve town-owned property. 3, yes or no, that the pending $125,000 Rochester Area Community Foundation grant to the town of Rush and a horse's friend that will enable restoration of the currently condemned horse barn on town-owned property will make it usable again, and this grant will be lost if this lease is not extended. 4, yes or no, that a horse's friend was initially provided rent credits in exchange for improvements to the town-owned property for a specified group of projects, but now it pays $1,500 a month rent to the town. 5, yes or no, that the town's current lease with a horse's friend is legally binding, and there is no evidence that it would leave Rush taxpayers on the hook for litigation or cause the land to revert back to state ownership. 6, yes or no, that the 2022 lease with the horse's friend details in Appendix B the specific buildings and pastures being leased, and that the current proposal extends that lease and is more public information available on the Town of Rush website. 7, yes or no, that a horse's friend has received the town permit to use its fences in accordance with the provisions of the permit. 8, yes or no, that White Spring Farms is town property and is open daily to pedestrian traffic from 7 a.m. until sunset and to vehicular traffic from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and that the public has access to the property and the hiking trails. 9, yes or no, that a special use permit is not required for a horse's friend. And 10, yes or no, that the deed conveying this property to the town of Rush does not restrict its use solely to park and recreation, but also includes educational and activities and other ancillary purposes, and that those activities carried on by a horse's friend fit within these parameters. So it would be helpful to us all, I think, if we had answers to those questions. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Go ahead. Good evening. I'm Dave Venable, Works Road in Town of Rush. I, as a taxpayer and voter, would love to have solid information about how to vote on the horse's friend proposal. There are two competing documents circulating that are in direct opposition to each other on many, many points. So I don't know what to believe, kind of like our larger scope elections. So I want to foot stomp the gentleman's point behind me and really implore that we put a fact-based paper out so that voters can make good informed choices. With respect to, is it okay for me to continue and talk about the budgetary? This is wide open.
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
I haven't done this before. So I would also like to comment on the draft budget and the indication that there's a need to double the supervisor's pay because the workload has doubled. Just like the grocery store, prices go up, they never go down. I would ask that instead of, and Dan, I don't know you well, but we didn't hire you to be a construction manager. We hired you because you have skills across a broad range of capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
I would encourage that we look at hiring someone for 2 years to manage whatever construction projects we have and then cut that cost loose and continue where we are. I am generally someone who believes strongly in more services. I've paid taxes in this town for more than 30 years. I despise that we have small-minded view. Oh, let's do less and save a penny. I don't want to do less and save a penny. I want to attract people. I want to attract businesses to our town. That requires a growth mentality. And so I would like to have a supervisor who's leading a town board that's interested in growth for our town. I really don't want to permanently improve the supervisor salary to a place where it's beyond the means of the town. I'd rather spend that money on services.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening. I'm Mary Reed from Pittsford. I'm also here as an advocate for Horse's Friend. I want to make it clear to begin with that I speak with a huge amount of anger about what is happening. I believe firmly in the right to speak to a cause. But I do not believe in the right to use misinformation. And I do not believe in the right that misinformation impugns the character of not only the founder of A Horse's Friend, Matt Doward, but also a Horse's Friend organization. I want to make it really clear that is wrong. It's not and should not be acceptable. To suggest that A Horse's Friend does things illegally or not in a responsible way is wrong. There could have been opportunities to discuss all this, but never was it brought directly to A Horse's Friend. It was always by rumor and innuendo until something was put in print most recently. To suggest that A Horse's Friend doesn't do anything for Rush is wrong. Through the town recreation department, there's open enrollment for Saturday program, open enrollment for summer camps. We had family fun days once a month on Sundays from June to September. The care of the property made it possible to relocate the fall festival. We offered out 1 week of free summer camp, winter camp for Rush kids. A Horse's Friend is state and federally approved. You've already heard some of this as a nonprofit. I want to stop saying we are a private or for-profit company, or that public funds of the Rush taxpayers or resources are being used to support a private person or company. It simply isn't true. And saying it over and over again does not make it true. We are not a commercial boarding business. And as Mary already pointed out, IRS application included horse boarding and leasing and trail riding to support the program. And most of you know this, nonprofits sell goods and services to support their programs. There's nothing unusual about that. And the statement in the flyer that only the New York State Legislature can approve the sale or lease for private and non-public purposes doesn't even apply in this case because we are a nonprofit. The 2022 lease does not describe the program as a small-scale recreation trail riding program with public expectation of 16 acres. I don't even know where that comes from.
That's 3 minutes, Mary.
My time is up.
Can you
I'll make one last statement then. The 125,000 grant from a Rochester Area Community Foundation is at risk, not because of flaws in the lease. And if you don't believe that statement, call the Rochester Area Community Foundation and check it out for yourself. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, a public hearing right now.
Pardon?
At 7:15.
It's 7:15. Do you
Oh.
have one more? Or you want me to wait?
You should wait.
Okay.
We have a public hearing tonight at 7:15 for the mixed-use Hamlet district map. The map itself hasn't been updated yet. We're waiting on the county, but if you have comments to it, we'll have to leave leave it open until we get the map.
You want me to read the
Yes,
notes?
please.
Can't hear all that good. Can't hear that good. Yeah, can't hear it all back here.
Okay,
We'll just move the microphone. So the notice was placed in the newspaper as required, and it states, please take notice, a public hearing will be held by the Rush Town Board at the Rush Town Offices, 5977 East Henrietta Road, Rush, New York, on the 23rd day of October 2024 at 7:15 PM local time for the purpose of amending the Town of Rush Town Code, Chapter 120 of the Town Code of Town of Rush by amending Section 120-5 and 120-10 of the zoning law of the Town of Rush regarding the amendment to the mixed-use Rush Hamlet District map, MUH map. At such hearing, any person may be heard in favor or against of the amendment to the map as proposed at the above time and date.
did we have a sign-up sheet?
We do have a sign-up sheet. Councilman Jinks, do you want to take the second one as well?
Yeah, I might as well. But it steps.
Public hearing for the first one is that.
I have no one signed up to speak on the MUH map, so we're not gonna close it. We're gonna continue it till the next meeting.
Unless there's somebody who didn't realize they should sign up. Has any comments about the Hamlet map?
I'll ask one question, Dave
Sure.
Venable. How would I even learn what this is about? I don't know what it is. Sorry, Pam, but I didn't learn anything from your, official reading. So
Well,
is there something on the website that I should read?
yes, it is proposed local law. It was actually adopted in July of this year, local law number 1 of 2024 and filed with the state. So that explains the local law itself. The map is being updated with the county, and the map is also on the website. So once we get the official map from Monroe County, as Supervisor said, the public hearing will remain open.
Okay, and the point is to change zoning.
The background on the mixed-use Hamlet is
Thank you.
there are a lot of structures in the hamlet that aren't allowed in the hamlet with the current zoning, like the town halls.
Yeah, of course.
So it's just updating it to allow what currently exists in the hamlet.
Katherine Hankins, 2353 Pinnacle Road, very supportive of the change of the map and including the St. Joseph's Church, the former Rush Methodist Church. This will make sure that our hamlet is
Post
really-
office.
post office. This is really a good, positive, important change and very supportive of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, we'll continue the hearing, leave it open for now. We have another public hearing scheduled for now. Dan, if you'll read the
So this one is also piggybacks the one that we have. Notice was placed in the paper. Notice is given that the preliminary budget of the town of Rush for the year 2025 has been completed and filed in the office of the Rush Town Clerk where it will be available for inspection by any interested person during regular business hours beginning on October 11th, 2024. The Rushtown Board will hold a public hearing on October 23rd, 2024 at 7:15 at the Rushtown Hall, 5977 East Henrietta Road. At such hearing, any person may be heard in favor or against the preliminary budget as compiled. The preliminary budget included the following proposed salaries for the elected officials for 2025. Supervisor, $68,000. Town board members each, $8,404. Town clerk, $69,897. Town justices, each $17,938. Highway superintendent, $95,176.
John Morelli, you're up first.
Signed up for the original, the first.
Oh, okay. Katherine Hankins is next.
And Katherine Hankins, 2353 Pinnacle Road. I think sometimes I've only been the only person speaking at the public hearing for the budget. This year, I'm very concerned because it's failing to recognize that we have had another townwide reassessment. So 2 reassessments within 4 years, unusual. How that happened, I'm not quite sure. But the first one was 24%. The one in 2024 is 42%. It means our townwide assessment is really huge. And if people look at their own personal property, they'll see that. That means that the town has far more money with a tax rate that is lower. So when former Supervisor Kusi and I was able to work with him, we made a commitment that we would lower the tax levy the same amount as the increase in the property assessment to balance it out. So the taxpayers were not overburdened because their property was now valued so much more because of a market push. That's not happening here. I read that we're going to end up with exceeding the tax cap. It doesn't look like we've exceeded the tax cap on page 2. It looks like we're 76 cents below the tax cap. So I'm not sure where that is coming from. And it doesn't look like that at all. But this budget should go back to the drawing table to make sure that we are looking at that unexpended balance. It's still far higher than the 30% recommended by the state controller. And we should look very carefully at raising the supervisor's salary. Why? Because the supervisor's job is dictated by the state of New York law. If you're going to increase his responsibilities, then you have to do that as a town board and say, we no longer want you to just do these town required chief financial officer jobs. We want you to take on this or that. But when I look over the last few years and what the town board and the town supervisor and the town clerk and the town members, all the people working here took on. They took on changing of zoning laws. They took on the comprehensive plan to the credit of a volunteer, John Morelli, and we paid a consultant. They took on 2 solar farms, Horseshoe Solar. We have had so many jobs, and we did it because of the enormous amount of energy and talent and skills of our town board members, looking at having townwide water. But where are we now? Let's look at what we have done in 2024. What is the special jobs that you're going to have to take on? And those jobs have to be upfront first before you just arbitrarily start to say we want to have a supervisor go from part-time to full-time. Am I on the time out? For a public hearing?
Not for a public.
Not for a public hearing.
Go ahead.
So we have to stop and say, what's the analysis? Who did the analysis? Where is the homework that has been done? But I looked in both of the newsletters, never been mentioned. Where's the public been engaged? We have such expertise in this town. Where is it? We have so many other issues that have to be resolved. Where is the technology person in this budget? The IT person that will make sure that the Zoom is working, that the YouTube, when I go and I can't come for the meeting because I have another activity that I'm working on, where can I go to watch what happened in our town? Where is the e-news? Where's the website? These are major issues. So I worked at the town. And the finance director at the time, he goes, you cannot work more than 20 hours. I said, well, then call me an outlaw. Most people who work for municipalities are doing it for the privilege, the responsibility to be the public servant. And you can't change direction midstream. You should go back to the voters. Maybe you wouldn't have that job if you said, I want to be full-time. I deserve to be full-time. Where's the evidence? You've been on the board for 12 years. So not to make it personal, but if you change this, where's the future? You can't change a job description for the supervisor. You can't do it. It's embedded in a town law at the state level. You have to be the chief financial officer. You have a budget director. You have a finance director. I'm not sure we have a consultant anymore. You have a confidential secretary, and you can have a deputy supervisor who is not hired and sitting on the town board, but is hired to be that extra person. Similar to what one of the residents said ahead. What is it that's on your plate that makes life too unbearable to be part-time? But we cannot set and enforce in the future from this budget. But we have to go back. I think some people, salaries are such a big deal because they have to be sustainable. Compression only happens at the $15 level. We work really hard to make sure that if I've been working for 20 years and I've come in and minimum wage is now $15, you're not making $50 with me. That's compression. But when you have somebody who's making $90,000, you have 3% on top of that. That's not compression. That may be actually not necessary. I've been redlined in jobs that I've stayed in to 10, 15 years because the COLA this year is only 2.5%. Seniors are not going to get more in their Social Security. We have to be much more aware that the monies you have in this budget for interest not going to be there sometime down in the future. Never put your extra money into salaries. Not sustainable. We have too much work to be done in the infrastructure of this town. That's where those items go. Those are the one-shot items. So I don't mean to be scolding, but you have to go back. This budget, and you can't put $200,000 into recreation for fees and charges. If that's coming from a grant, it has to be put somewhere else. You can't put $90,000 into the historian's budget if that's coming from the unexpended balance or even a budget transfer. So some of the lines don't follow the technical controller's code. So I'll help in any way I can, but this budget needs to come back to a public hearing with a little bit more budget notes. In the past, I mean, I've worked on budgets for 4 decades. If it's more than 5% increase or decrease, you have to have a budget note why. You can't expect the community or someone to even begin to understand if you don't have that budget note. Why? The last comment is that if you are going to make $68,000, what about our town clerk? She's been working for 20 years. Why are you going to make more than her when she's here from dawn to dusk? Wouldn't make any sense. The third thing is, why aren't we asking the questions of some of our programs? Who do they serve? How many people do they serve? What do they? Can we do things different? Do you have to go out there to the planning board and the zoning board? Or can't they come here? This is not the only small town that I've had to pay taxes in. And most of them had the town planning board already come to the town board to present. Not the other way around. You can look at efficiencies, but the technology person would probably be the most important cost savings venture, and it's not in this budget that I can find. That would save us money. This is 2024. Technology can save money. And then, just what the gentleman said, you need help. 2 places to look. One we've used for 20 years in this town, volunteers. Skilled, knowledgeable, sophisticated, experienced. reputable volunteers. They can make things happen, and we see that. And the second is consultants who you pay, and then they go and they've left in their place the answers to whatever questions we have. Thank you. I appreciate everybody's work, and I know that, but how difficult a budget is because I've done it. I will not speak on other issues tonight, but you know, I have been in this town for a long time. I'm a long time taxpayer, and I did sit on the committees, and I have the documentation that I have gone to every single attorney in this town at the bequest of the town board. And I have no answers. I have not gotten any answers. So I am not one to speak out without evidence and support. And I did call Rochester Area Foundation. I have called everybody. I'm a house detective. I'm a researcher. So when I put something out there, maybe it's been misinterpreted, and I'll clear that up. But I do it with one cause only, that the right thing happens in our town, that we're not looking down the road to see problems that should have been answered now. And I do that with a clear vision of what we can have in this town. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Beth Hoke.
Beth Hoke, 189 Rushman and Town Line Road. So this is related to the budget, but it's a little food for thought that I kind of want to put into your minds. And it's related to the comments that you had written on the town website about the upcoming budget, Dan. The HVAC system is getting to the point of needed upgrades. And also it's predicted that utilities will go up 15% next year, which energy isn't going to get any cheaper. We all know that. So as a conservation board member, I attend meetings of the Monroe County Environmental Management Council. And for about a year and a half now, they've spoken to us quite a bit about the climate action plan that Monroe County is involved in and renewable energy. And certainly the city of Rochester is moving in that direction, as are a lot of other municipalities in Monroe County. So at the last conservation board meeting, I shared information on this, and they kind of set me to task to bring more information back to the conservation board at our next meeting. But the long and short of it is, I started doing some research today about it because I wanted to bring it to you today. And we're a little bit late because the boiler, you just had to put an expensive repair into the boiler.
Not that expensive.
Well, through NYSERDA, there's two ways now for municipalities to get incentives. So this is all renewable. This is cold energy heat pumps, it's solar, it's geothermal, it's changes in infrastructure. One is the CEC, that's the clean energy community status that you can get. You don't even have to have matching funds. A municipality would not have to match funds. The climate smart community status, you would have to match funds. The whole process starts where you get a coordinator on board, you look at the needs, they help you through the process. I'm hoping to share a lot more information at the next conservation board meeting, but I can also send you all an email with the links to this on my certified pages. I can speak to it because I just received almost $20,000 in incentives from the state to completely retrograde my home. I now have cold weather heat pumps. So I know some of the items on the budget were about changing the infrastructure, making updates. And I just feel like this is a direction we really want to look at and possibly move forward in.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
David Kunsch.
You did punch 555 Points Road. Just in regards to the budget, I think it would be helpful, and I'm not sure if it's possible, to have a downloadable Excel spreadsheet rather than just sort of PDFs in there for comparison and just for calculations and stuff like that. So I'd recommend in the future that you have something like that. When I went through the budget, I just eyeballed it. I didn't put in any numbers into a spreadsheet, but I had four things, some of which have been talked about tonight. First of all, the Parks and Rec charges, 2024, it was estimated to be 65,000. It's 99,000 coming in. It's going up to 2011, and we have no idea why. I'm sure you guys know why, but I would speak with Mrs. Hankins. If you could have notes on anything that goes above or below a certain threshold, I think it would be really good information for everyone to have, and it would clear up any misconceptions. The second of all, the supervisor's salary, the same sort of thing. I would also echo that salaries never go down, they only go up. And so if we do put this in place, this is now going to be the floor of salaries going forward. And the other thing I would recommend is, I would think that the salary should take place where, when it gets instituted, is at the beginning of the next term of the supervisor. Because that way the supervisors or people that might want to run know that there's going to be a bigger pot of money for them when they're doing the work. Same point with the Historical Society. It's gone up considerably over $100,000. I'm sure there's a good reason, not sure what it is. And then the building contribution fund has again gone up quite considerably. I'm sure there's a good reason, not sure what it was. So if you have notes in the budget, that would be very, very helpful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Dave, you already spoke? You want to speak?
I have a little more.
Okay.
Yeah. I wasn't quite sure how this all worked, so Dave Venable, Works Road. I'd like to put forward two words: creativity and communication. I think there's nothing that can't be improved with better communication, and that to me is a strong thematic from what the three previous speakers have spoken to. Transparency, communication is important, and communication leads directly into the one of my longstanding bones, which is we have a newsletter sent by print and snail mail every other month, which is mostly outdated or kind of imagine about the future. I don't know about you, but I've been on email for 30 years. And I get that there are,
It's
you know,
addressed in the budget.
sorry?
The newsletter is addressed in the budget.
Okay, thank you.
That should be a note.
Okay, thank you. That I'd prefer it electronically. I despise receiving it and reading it and throwing it into a recycling bin. Really bugs me. On the creativity front, so yes, costs go up. What can we do to drive residents' total costs down? As I was standing here, I realized there are 4 different disposal company trucks that drive past my house every week. Why doesn't the town go and put a bid out and knock it down to 1? Roll it into the town tax. Okay, the tax bill goes up a few pennies, but my 100 and X goes away. And not only that, it would work on climate change, which I think all of us care about at one level or another. So I honor you for doing a job that's not especially well paid. I still work 60, 70 hours a week in tech, so this is not for me. And so I just want to honor you for your time towards the town. And I would just love it if we expanded our horizons a bit to look at the holistic picture of the resident experience. Instead of just looking at, okay, here's my remit. It's always been my remit. What if we looked at the scope and said, what would be better for our town holistically? And I think there's probably some good that could be done. So, thank you.
That's everyone who's, excuse me, who's up. Sorry about that. Got a cough. And that's everyone who wished to speak. Close the hearing.
All in favor of closing the hearing?
I would just like to ask anybody who didn't realize they should sign up who wants to say something. Thank you.
Really not sure this is on. I think you can hear me now if I speak okay. Hi, Maran Rizzo, 25 Stoll Road. I would like to encourage you to act smart and spend less. And please don't approve the preliminary budget as it is. I'd like you to try real hard not to increase the supervisor salary. I realize you are all public servants and I appreciate that. I was a public servant and still am my whole career. Public servants always, often, I should say, most often work more hours than they ever intended to. Than they ever agreed upon. And I think that's the nature of public servants. I encourage you to I realize you have a lot of work. The supervisor has a lot of work to do. And I encourage you to delegate the responsibilities across your staff and across the town board members and also with the deputy supervisor. I think you're only a phone call away. And I know that in the last administration, that's exactly what they did. They had a deputy supervisor and they delegated the responsibilities. And it seemed like it was across all town board members. So the 68,000 is not, it's like an exponential thing. It's not just the 68,000. It's the next year's increase and then year and year after year. It's the benefits, it's the retirement, really adds up for the town. So I'm asking you not to extend the 2% tax cap. Many, not all, of the residents are on limited incomes, and it really does make a difference. Our assessments already went up. We're already paying more. So I'll ask you to trim the budget for 2025 in any way that you can. And I hope that some of that park budget actually goes to the park. But again, I want you to act smart and spend less. Thank you.
Thank you.
Katie Root, 41 Hamlin Drive. I was curious about the recreation director salary. And when you rattled off the salaries of the town people, is that not a town salary position? Or?
It's only elected officials. It's required by law to put in the notice.
Okay, so my comment is just seems to me significant increase in the recreation director's salary from 2022 to the one that's projected, big increases each year and even a bigger one this year. I guess doesn't like to see some notes about that.
I'm not totally understanding what you're asking.
Right.
I don't know if the board is.
I don't know if this is the right form to ask a question. I guess my comment is just in looking at that spreadsheet of the preliminary budget from the salary from 22, 23, 24, and the projected for 25, it's like $40,000 increase. So that seems significant, and I would like to understand a little bit more about the justification. So maybe in the notes. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi there. Robin Rapport, 16 Meadowood, Brush. In looking through the budgets for the previous years, I'm amazed at the detail, the level of confusion that it engenders. I have to compliment you for spending the time and energy to deal with all those numbers. Okay. The net result is sometimes they don't make people happy. I get that. There were some very good suggestions that were made. I can remember some of them. A note on significant changes in the budget would be really helpful. What went up and why? I mean, if it's within the 3% that you're talking about for salaries, no problem. But when it goes up 50, 60%, we need to understand why. My understanding from a previous meeting, town board meeting, was that the town needs to get a town law, I think it's a town law, changed to increase the taxes. Basically, the tax rate is about 4% now.
Yep.
All right. So is that true? There is
We need a law to go above 2%.
Okay, is that gonna be up for public discussion as well?
At the next board meeting.
Okay. That's basically it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Motion,
Agreeable to close the public hearing?
motion to close the public hearing.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approve the abstract.
Moving on, we have a presentation for rezoning
We need to
the
go back.
parcel on,
Before we
Oh.
did we need to go back to the public
oh,
comment period?
back to public comments. I'm sorry. Not yet, John.
Good evening. I'm Amber Corbin and I live in Rush. I've served on the town board from 2020 to 2023 and was the board liaison to White Springs Farm and Horse's Friend. I'm here as a resident and member of the supporters of A Horse's Friend. I'm outraged at how some residents are spreading disinformation about A Horse's Friend at White Springs Farm. It pains me that the authors of this disinformation about Proposition 2 think it is okay to treat A Horse's Friend this way. A Horse's Friend doesn't deserve it at all. Any group that would be treated by the Proposition 2 vote no for Rush group may not want to come or even stay in Rush anymore. Who would want to be subjected to false accusations? This town board has the facts and needs to let the residents of Rush know the facts, not be silent when disinformation is being spread about Proposition 2. If the vote is no on Proposition 2, what foundations or nonprofit is going to want to work with the town of Rush when the residents voted against extending a lease for a $125,000 grant on the line? Think about it. A Horse's Friend is small and has devoted a great deal of their effort for over 2 years trying to answer questions and satisfy us Rush residents. They have followed the lease, followed the directives of the town building inspector, gotten all needed permits, improved the property and buildings at White Springs Farm. 3 different town attorneys since 2020 have drafted, written, and presented to the town board and the public the amended lease between A Horse's Friend and the town of Rush. The current town attorney, Kevin Overton, working for Harris Beach in 2014 in a written letter to then Supervisor Udicious, wrote about a written notice that BOCES 1 is extending the lease agreement with the New York State Museum of Transportation. In my opinion, the current town attorney, Kevin Overton, is very knowledgeable to the deed for the White Springs Farm property and the leases for that property when he advises the town and drafts leases for that property. Lastly, there are many volunteers at A Horse's Friend and at White Springs Farm. Many of those volunteers are Rush residents. When the vote no for Rush group spreads harmful disinformation about A Horse's Friend, that no group is also impacting the wonderful volunteers at A Horse's Friend too. Please, town board, the residents of Rush need the facts from you about Proposition 2. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, moving on, approval of the minutes.
I'll go for the first one. I so move to approve the town board minutes of the regular meeting on Wednesday, September 25th, 2024, as submitted by Town Clerk Hargrave. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Councilwoman Morelli,
Aye.
Councilman Chase,
Aye.
Councilman Kies,
Aye.
Councilman Brown.
Aye.
Supervisor Williver.
Aye.
He's on Zoom.
Approval of the minutes of October 9th.
I so move to approve town board minutes of regular meeting Wednesday, October 9th, 2024, as submitted by Town Clerk Hargrave. Do I have a second? I'll second.
So I would just ask for one correction. You're showing, I believe it's on the October 9th minutes, Councilman Derek Brown as being both present and also being absent. Whoops. Whoops.
He wasn't there.
It was-
Sorry,
I went back and read that. I said, wait a minute.
sorry.
What an idiot.
Councilman Morelli,
Aye.
Councilman Chase.
Aye.
Councilman Kies.
Aye.
Councilman Brown,
Abstain.
Supervisor Williver.
Aye.
I think he just confirmed.
I had to.
Approval of the abstract. Councilman Kies.
Have them reviewed all the vouchers on abstract 10-1 of October 23, 2024. Authorized payment totaling $226,731.41, which includes Fund AA General for $23,883.17. And DA Highway Townwide for $169,303.65. Also Fund LL Library for $33,444.47. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
On abstract 10-2, Councilman Morelli,
I'm sorry. Oh, aye. It says it.
I know it's in both places. I just want to make sure it was right for the record.
Okay, aye.
Councilman Chase,
Aye.
Councilman Kies,
Aye.
Councilman Brown,
Aye.
Supervisor Williver.
Report of officers. Councilman Chase.
So Tuesday morning, I met with Supervisor Williver, our building inspector, John Limbeck, and two members from the Rush Henrietta Central School District, Residential Development Department. Basically just trying to figure out, if and what type of development was going on as far as residential goes, just trying to gauge what they may need to do as far as their structures and things like that within the school district. So, pretty quick meeting, pretty straightforward. And then last night I attended the planning board meeting. Not much there. We had, one application was looking for a second driveway, the, temple on East River Road. They needed that, and they wanted to put in a green space parking, which I had never heard of that before. When I first heard them say that, I thought they were just talking about parking on grass. It's actually much more evolved than that. It's got, it's basically a plastic grid with,
Stone.
in their case, they have about 6 inches of stone beneath it, and then another substrate underneath that. The benefit to that is for parking, number one, that's not ever going to be mud. The plastic grid holds that vehicle up over the top. So you're not really ever making dirt, but there's not as much runoff because of the gravel and the substrate below that. It allows for more absorption. So because this was an additional parking area they wanted to add on, they were afraid of capacity of maybe some of the ponds that they had on the property for runoff. So they decided to go this route to expand their parking. There were some questions, so we ended up tabling that application. Actually, the application was denied, and they're coming back to the planning board to get the second driveway put in because they had everything bundled into one, and they weren't able to approve that with the dumpster that wasn't approved and the green space parking. So they're going to come back hopefully in a couple months and get that driveway. Other than that, it was just a couple informal reviews, nothing really to report on those. So I'll keep you posted as they move forward with that.
Councilwoman Morelli.
Thank you. So on Tuesday, October 15th, as liaison, I attended the fire commissioners meeting. And as of that date, they hadn't formalized their budget, and they were still unsure as to whether they were going to stick within the 2% cap or go to the 4% cap. So I don't know what their final resolution was, but that's what they had said that night. thought I'd pass that on. I'd also like to make you aware that Supervisor Woolover and myself are part of the bicycle slash pedestrian safety and connectivity group because we got a grant to study that in the town, particularly in the Hamlet. There was supposed to be the next public meeting for next Monday night. That has now been changed to Monday night, November 4th from 6 to 8 p.m. here in the town hall, not in the Judicious Pavilion. So I'm hoping we can get something up on the website about that. Just before I forget, I'd like to see us schedule another workshop for our codes to continue on the momentum of reviewing town codes. And I'd also like to add in, because we had did a lot on the commercial codes, and I had thought we were further on with that, but to have a really good discussion and possibly change a code for this paving issue makes a lot of sense to me, because I think right now the code is restricting it to pavement, a blacktop for a lot of large parking lot areas, but this makes a lot of sense that we should consider this or at least know more about that. I'd like to see that discussion.
We talked about the code committee expanding to cover issues like this.
Okay. Anyway, before I forgot, I
Yeah.
thought we would do that. But I'd also like to take this opportunity while I have the floor, so to speak, is to chime in and respectfully ask our town attorney to put to rest once and for all here in public about what the town is doing with regard to the lease with a horse's friend. Please tell everybody what we're doing is above board. I mean, it's just tearing me apart and the town apart. And we know this town board has acted responsibly in negotiations and drafting up these leases and done all the research and all the consulting with 3 attorneys. I would just like to see that happen. Let's do it. Let's end this discussion tonight.
Kevin?
Sure. This has been discussed several times over, but the proposed lease with a horse's friend meets all the requirements for leasing real property by a municipality pursuant to New York State town law. Is with regard to the deed restrictions, the horse's friend, the use that the horse's friend is utilizing the property for does not run afoul and is consistent with the deed restrictions that are currently on the property. If it wasn't, at any time the state would have already come in and actually taken the property back because it's an automatic reverter. That has not happened, and there is no, based on my analysis, my 2 predecessors at the town attorney, there is no violation of the deed restriction currently. I know there's contrary opinions and thoughts, and that's fine. The opinion of myself and others is that the lease, that the proposed use is consistent with deed restriction, and there is no reason, legally speaking, that I see that the town cannot move forward with the proposed amendment to this agreement, subject to an affirmative vote of the voters, or affirmative vote by the voters.
Thank you so much.
Councilman Kais?
Wow. Okay, so I met with the Conservation Board, earlier this month, and, they went through their review of different plans. And we did go over the church. I don't know what they call it, the temple, I guess.
Okay, yep,
Okay.
yep.
And, by coincidence, they talked about the, geo-block system that they were using. And I had just got done installing that for Morris Lumber down in the city.
Okay.
So I was able to show them actual pictures of what it looked like going in and so forth. So they were very much in favor of, again, changing our codes and using products like this here, and trying to get more drainage into the system versus having sheets of runoff and so forth. So a little bit of a positive there. Also met with our supervisor, Mr. Wilver, Janet Pock and Amber Corbin. And next week, or next meeting, we're gonna discuss a solar group. And bring that to the table and see if the board approval for that. Just be kind of a watchdog for us. And the only other thing I had was, I have found that this website of ours seems to be really a train wreck at best. Trying to negotiate through it and find things. And I don't know, being new on the board this year, I get it, but it seems like we could look around and see if we can find a better system, or can we improve the system we got, because that's about the most miserable website I've been on in a long time. And we're part of it. You know, that's, people want to find out what's out there and they can't. Maybe some of you can, I don't know, but I find it's a train wreck. And Pam, if you did it, I don't know, I
I did
apologize.
it too.
But I think it's something we should look into and possibly modify it, see if we can make it better.
Councilman Brown?
Can you hear me, Dan?
Yes.
Yeah.
Nothing to report, other than I do want to extend my apologies to the zoning board. Between life and work, I've been pulled in a million directions. I completely overlooked their meeting last week, so I do apologize about that. Other than that, that was it for me. And I'm in my truck, so I'll be inside in a few minutes.
Town
Drive
clerk?
carefully.
I do have a report. School tax collection will end on October 31st pursuant to my warrant. Although you can still make payment through November 8th to Monroe County Treasury. The supervisor filed the August and September fund balance reports with my office. And I submitted the August and September town clerk reports to the supervisor with checks for August for $27,333.24, an additional check for $250, and other agency checks for $93. For September, I submitted a check to the supervisor for $12,486.82, and other agency checks in the amount of $89. For any of you that don't know, the reason why I give all that information is for auditing purposes. It has to be included in the minutes. That's it.
Thank you. Kevin?
I have nothing to report.
All right, I met with our insurance agent, Gary Wilkins, to go over our policies, preparing for next year. See what it's gonna cost us. We had a meeting, another meeting with the employee handbook. We've made some updates to what we've had before. It's still moving along. It's gonna be redistributed to the different department heads, and eventually we'll come back to the town board members for approval, but we're still working on it. I met with Dan Chase and the Rush Henrietta Annual Residential Development Meeting. They were looking for development in the town of Rush, wondering if we're gonna have to build a new school. And we will not contribute enough students for a new school, so at least not in the next year. I had a meeting at the State School of Industry with the they have 111 students over there, engaged in various levels of education. Some are actually going to MCC classes, a lot of BOCES work. Barber school seems to be popular with the inmates over there. Inmates with the kids over there, are residents. I guess they call them residents, but a lot of quite an operation. And I met with Amber and Janet and Luther, talking about a solar advisory group. I'll have more details at the next town board meeting. And the Genesee Transportation Council TY Lynn meeting is November 4th, as Gene said, and it will be in the boardroom instead of the pavilion. And that's it. All right, now presentation for rezoning 7093 West Henrietta Road by John Sharaba.
Good evening, everyone. My name is John Sharaba with Land Tech, representing the Moore family this evening. And actually, Jack Moore is here, can answer any questions that I cannot. I appreciate the time to speak to you about this. In September, met briefly with the supervisor, told him we had a rezoning project that we want to blow the dust off. And he said, well, why don't you make application and come see everybody informally and present what we want. So I know there's a lot of new members on the town board, but this is a project that we presented back in 2021. It's generally in the same format as it was back then with two major changes. One change that we did is the original proposal back in 2021, we were proposing to bring sanitary public sewer from Henrietta to Rush to service this site. That seemed to be a major issue with public, and so we pulled that off. The other major change was the fact that Moore family had a trucking company under contract that was looking to relocate outside of Henrietta and put their office here. And it was a regional local trucking company, and that was not well received by the public either. So at that point, the application was tabled back in 2021. Most people know Jack Moore. Jack is always out in public talking to people, and he currently has someone interested in the property again for another use, and that's why we're here. So any use that we want to do here is going to require rezoning to light industrial. The property is 69 acres in size and is currently zoned residential 30. It's located adjacent to currently light industrial zoning. It's located adjacent to State Route 390 and is on State Route 15. So it's really, all intents and purposes in an industrial area, agricultural area, of course, but we're not spot rezoning. We're trying to ask to extend the existing light industrial zoning north to include this property. The property is it's a rolling property. It's got some good grade to it. It is encumbered with a state wetland in the rear of the property, which we'll not intend to touch. But again, the project is essentially the same. We're showing uses that we speculate are an asset to the community research center. We do show a gas station on there because it seems they're always coming looking for a spot. But I think the big thing that's going to limit major development here is the lack of sanitary sewers. You're not going to get those bigger uses. So we've kind of identified uses that do fit in the code that are listed in your code. I also like to point out that this light industrial use is in the comprehensive plan as it currently is in place. So we think it's consistent with that. So we're asking the town board to rezone this parcel. And I'd like to see if you seem fit to do that with the changes we've made to the concept. That's a very quick overview of what we've done. The change that I forgot to mention. So the area that we do have speculation under contract is this 12-acre parcel that we identified as flex space. Those buildings are intended to house small business owners such as framers, plumbers, electricians, hobbyists, people that want to park cars, RVs. Several of these projects have been approved and are built. If you look at Tech Drive and Avon, there's a large facility. You can see it from 390 if you drive by. That's fully built out. We've designed these in Webster, Chili, Gates. It's really a product that these small businessmen that are operating out of their homes or in a subdivision, and now they've grown to a point where they need some place to go, get their trailers, get their stuff. We put them in this industrial area. They rent a small 1,500 square foot facility. It has a bathroom, it has a man door and a garage door. That's where they house their parts. One guy has rented one in Webster. He's a woodworker. He loves that. So that's his hobby. He's got the wherewithal. So it's a variety of uses. And I think it's a product that Jack wants to bring to the town. And I think it'll be well received, and I think it would grow. So that's really why we're here. So we've taken sewer off the board. We've taken the trucking company off the board, retooled it for this flex space that he has a person looking to do, and coming back to you to ask for a rezone. So with that, I can answer any questions you had.
So, thank you. I do remember the last time you made a presentation, And I did recognize it being the exact same map with maybe, taking the trucking company off. But I would like to let you know that you reference a comprehensive plan which no longer exists. The town passed a new comprehensive plan a year ago in October of 2023. And in the comprehensive plan talks about the limited, and that's limited industrial, not light.
Okay.
Limited
Sorry.
industrial, it's okay. Limited industrial zones which exist right in that same area were sufficient because they're not fully rented, they're not fully utilized. And it was a determination by 1,000 respondents to the comprehensive plan survey. 1,000 people from the town of Rush responded that we have enough limited industrial zones as exists right now on our map, and did not see any need to add more to that because there's underutilized limited industrial zones already right in that neighborhood. In fact, the property just to the south of you adjacent is limited industrial,
Correct,
and that's vacant.
right, and that's, I don't know if it's for sale or. It's
I
yeah.
don't know, I just want to point out to you because you sent
So,
us
I
this to
appreciate you.
consider.
So
And I just
haven't been
wanted-
to Town of Rush in a while.
So
Usually
if
get
you
chased
would
out of
take a
here with
look-
people. So I did not know that the comprehensive plan has been adopted. And
I keep it with me all the time.
I
And
have a
it,
copy of the old one. I'll come to the library and get a copy of the new one. So so you're telling me that the map has changed significantly, that this parcel is not in the light industrial overlay
it's
anymore?
never been in the limited industrial. That is R30. What
Well,
your
the
preserve
comp
is
plan
currently,
shows to be changed.
no, it does not.
I think I even gave you a copy of it.
Oh,
No, I don't want to
no,
hear it.
I know, but-
That's all gray on the original one back.
in the current
So, yeah. I got you.
updated version of the comprehensive plan adopted by the town board in October of 2023 calls for no more limited industrial. I just want to, let you know that
Okay, no, that's fine. I'm not familiar with that.
as
plan.
exists.
I was asking about the map, if the map has changed. So
You know,
that's-
and to rezone anything, the town board, and it says in the first paragraph about rezoning, the town board needs to refer to the comprehensive plan for the town of Rush. So, I know you come here for many people, so you should have this document. I hope you get it.
Yep,
Um,
well, I appreciate the fact. I'm not aware that you've updated your comprehensive plan to that level. But I don't think that's the only element in rezoning. I mean, I think you can, unless your town board is different, the town attorney could tell me I'm wrong. I mean, if it's not in the comp plan still, though, it's up to your board. If you don't want to hear this application anymore, we walk out of here. But I think there's other avenues, even though they're not on the comp plan, you can still rezone a piece of property.
that's true.
Okay.
Anybody else?
I guess they got turned down before because of sewers and because of trucking company.
It did not get turned down. It was withdrawn. The town board never voted on it. It just disappeared.
I hate to tell you, it was never withdrawn, it never got voted on.
Well, that's right. It did not get voted on. I think it was prior to my, it doesn't have to be. The town board legally, I'm just stating the facts here. Legally is not required to respond even to a request for rezoning.
Didn't withdraw.
I'm saying it was never turned down, officially turned down by the town board. The town board never turned it down.
You understand?
Okay, just to let you know.
Yeah, we're asking you to hear this application. You can say, we don't want to hear it. I don't know if that was verbalized or just, so that's what we're asking you tonight. Will you take this application any further than tonight? So that's kind of where we are. Because it's time and money. We think this is a great use for the property. We think it's in an area that, as I said before, is essentially limited industrial. We got it to the north, as you said. Maybe that's something you're speaking to about that. There's a couple lots left in that.
Across the
area.
road and to the south, directly adjacent to that parcel.
But I don't know the limitations of that parcel, although it's designated as that, maybe there's bad access. That's what I think it is.
It has
So close-
access to 251.
Right, but I think the location and to the ramp of the expressway is an issue with the DOT. That's just hearsay that I remember. But, we're here to speak to this. I could speak, I understand if it's not in the comp plan, if you don't want industrial, you don't want to increase your tax base. I think this property is.
Now, that's not true. We're not saying we don't want to increase our tax base.
Okay.
So I resent that, number one,
I'm not trying to-
because we have areas that are zoned limited industrial. We're welcome. We changed our code to attract more business to the town. This board changed the town code to make limited industrial zones more flexible, more business friendly. And so, yes, we are doing all of those things to, increase the, by whether we change any more zones. The town has not turned anybody away. We have not turned anybody away from the limited industrial zones. They just haven't come.
Right.
So we're not saying, don't come to Rush. We changed it to make it better and more welcoming, so we want to entertain new business to the town. So
Yeah, again, that's why we're here. We're
yes,
asking you. to
thank you.
extend-
I just don't want to say that we're,
No, I just can't speak for other property owners. I know what their reasons are. I mean,
Okay.
some people don't even know the property is what their zoning is. So that gentleman may be an ag and wants to farm it forever, and that's great. All I can tell you is I represent Mr. Moore.
Yep.
That has a business plan and wants to see some growth here, and that's what his, he doesn't stop. He's always developing, Jack. So this is his idea. This is his dream for his family. And he believes it's a good use, and I'm here to advocate for him and ask the town board to rezone it. And how you guys want to proceed from my presentation tonight and how we can go forward, if at all. The next step from here, if we need some kind of decision to either, come back and let's have a public hearing, let everyone come in and, look at the plan again, or don't come in at all. I mean, I don't know. I'm not asking you to say that right now, but that's kind of where we are.
We need to expand our tax base. I've been around since before the expressway was there. When the expressway went in, I thought that's the ideal place for development. I mean, it's at the expressway.
Yeah.
And I really believe that every other exit from the expressway has significant development. This is limited. It's the frontage. I just think we need to expand our tax base, and I think it's a good idea.
I think I'd be interested in hearing the proposal. I think same deal. It's a buffer between the expressway. I mean, that's where you want to have the trucks, and you want to have that. You don't want them going off from town and everything. Not that we have a lot. But I think the other piece of limited industrial that's to the south there, as he was saying, you kind of screwed up on 251 with it.
Yeah,
So
you can't get in it.
you really can't do much with that piece. And that would just, if Jack was, maybe he reconsiders, maybe he picks that up and adds to it, right? Now you got an exit out of there. I think we would hurt the town by not considering it. That's my opinion.
And the fact that right across the road with just as easy access to 251 are vacant, limited industrial spaces that we already have zoned that way.
All the way across the road.
Yeah, right across the road.
At High Tech Park.
Okay,
It's all limited industrial with space available and no one's coming in.
but he doesn't own that space. And
That's
this
not
is,
my problem. You could buy it. I don't know.
So if you look at back, and I'm speak to Tech Drive, I didn't do the design. I know the limitations are smaller lots. If you look at our plan, the lots are substantially larger than any lot in that track. Because for the uses that are intended, that facility was intended for a use back in the early 90s when it was developed. That's fine. And there's reasons why those lots are vacant. Maybe the price is too much, maybe they can't fit something on there. We don't know. But, we're taking, this is a conceptual plan, right? We're hopefully that get to the planning board and get to the meat and potatoes of the layout. But, we've designed bigger lots, regional infrastructure, things that, are attractive to, people that are looking to develop in the regulations of limited industrial.
Can I ask you? And it's a concept plan.
Correct.
So what's firm? Anything?
Nothing.
Okay.
We can't spend any money in doing hard design until we have a zone. So we can't make application to the planning board. So once we get it zoned, then we will do we've done the topographic survey, but then in the boundary survey, but then we'll do the design to meet the requirements of your site plan and subdivision regulations at the planning board level. We're not there yet. We can't even make application to planning.
So do you have tenants?
We have a speculative tenant for the like.
That's
for the
what
flex
I'm,
space.
that's what I'm
Yeah.
asking.
I think it'd be worth hearing more on it. I think it would help with our tax base. Yeah, I think we could move forward. I don't know if we get more information and then get a public hearing. Is that how you want to work this, or what?
That how it works?
That's how it's
out?
been in the past where, the public gets up here and it's.
But you have more information to provide that we would need for the public hearing, or do you think that what you got right now is?
The plan we have and just
that's
take the public
sufficient?
comments as we have before and
Okay.
try to address them best I can at this level.
Yeah.
Again, I don't have a lot of information other than the concept. We're looking at the zoning works. I think we're gonna have the typical questions, drainage. We've placed a drain to, everything's kind of migrating west and south.
Well, you heard us talk about the grass, right?
Yeah.
Blocks.
Those are great. I use those a lot.
There you go.
Those are awesome. So if you look at drainage of this big traffic, all right? Everyone hates traffic. This is State Route 15. Everyone's gonna talk about, let's get a light here. I know that you guys have been around the block enough to know that the state DOT is not gonna do anything regarding speeds. Volume of traffic, this is not gonna be a blip on their radar, but I'm saying that as this evil engineer up here, but you're probably gonna want a traffic study or a traffic impact, trip generation law there at best to say what's this use and how it's gonna impact the state road is gonna be under the threshold for the state DOT. Traffic drainage lighting, we talked about the last application with the trucks idling and things like that. I know some of these board members weren't here. They were concerned about that. We pushed that away from the road, which increased landscaping and buffering. Can't go into too much detail about landscaping and buffering. That's a planning board job, which we hopefully will get there. And I think those are the major light spill, we've got to be dark sky compliant. The planning board will have jurisdiction under that, but we can't get there until we have the zoning in place. So we'd love to come back and meet with all the people. I know everyone probably knows me here and throwing darts at me or whatever, but I love coming to Rush. I think I like the people here. I like working with your board and the planning board. So if you see fit to send us back, we'd like to come back and schedule a public hearing.
I got one question.
Sure.
Do you foresee any type of problem because there's going to the north, there is a rise in 15?
Yes, so we spent quite a bit of time looking at that exact location, and I think if you look at what the farmers did in the past, we're putting that road right at that driveway, the southern driveway of the house, and that's the best spot.
You're far enough away from that's an exit ramp right there,
I believe so,
you think?
yeah. And there's no turning lane, they're not getting into that area where the road's widening yet. But again, going back to like planning board stuff, as soon as we get the site plan, that'll go to the DOT for review. We'll have to get a full permit from the DOT to meet their requirements, which are very stringent. But, and that's the thing, why can't you do that now? Well, it's a lot of money to spend, on it if to come, if planning board, we get the zoning and the planning board denies us, that's one thing. Or they don't like the layout, or they don't like the use. But we can't provide that information to the planning board because we're not there yet.
Do you have a letter of intent from your prospective tenant?
I am not familiar with that, but I'm sure Jack can get one provided, but I can tell you, I did a brief overview of what these operations technically are. I can give you addresses of other places where they're.
No, I meant for this space. If
The
this,
12-acre piece, the flex space.
yes, That's what I'm
referring to.
talking
I can
about.
give you, I don't know Jack's exact contract with these people, or if it's just a handshake deal at this point, but I can show you other areas and show you the business model, how they operate. Is that what you're asking?
well, I think eventually, town would want to know before rezoning, if that was going to be in the future, to make sure it met all the parameters for a limited industrial.
Well, I think that's what we'd have to guarantee that they can't come in. Again, I have to refresh myself with your code if you've changed the code since 21. But
Yeah, you might want to look at it. It's better.
Well, if you look at so I'm looking at intended uses. So you go down what's allowed in your light limited industrial. Every one of those are listed down here. So we'd have to stay
Right.
within those things.
Right,
We don't want to come here for a use variance.
right.
We might
Okay.
come here for a special permit if it doesn't allow like outdoor parking. We might, some of those things will come up because this is our best guess at this point in time. But someone comes in and wants to put something up and they say, I got, you know, 6 trucks that I need to leave outside because they're cranes or something, we might have to come to the planning board or town board for a special permit for outdoor storage. I can't see that kind of minutia at this point.
So, and I was not on the board at the time, but I certainly paid attention to town business throughout the years. And concept plan is one thing, and the town has been down this road before, and based on somebody's concept plan, rezoned property, and there was never any intent to develop it. And it still remains undeveloped, yet we rezoned, it did all this big fuss, and nothing happened.
I think you're referring to a project that I probably did about 10 years ago.
Well, it could be.
So, yeah, so I rezoned that property for Mr. Dorschel.
Yes, that's.
And I, with
Thank
all
you.
attention to planning on doing that design, he hired another firm to do the engineering based on his work with his realtor. And so at that point, I was off the job, so I can't speak to, what transpired there. But when I worked on it, it was a very viable project, though it took years to develop, and people lose deals when it takes years to develop a project. So I can't speak to that, but it's not any developer's intention to pay a guy like me a bunch of money to not build. It's usually, they have a goal in mind. And I do.
Well, that's why I ask about a letter of intent from somebody before the town entertains any rezoning, to just be rezoned for what?
Well,
On the intention in the next 20 years, like you're talking, it would be interesting to know if there's a letter of intent, pending rezoning, that they will move here, that there is indeed a project on the books with a letter of intent signed by somebody. I think I'd be curious about that.
Yeah. Well,
You understand what
I
I'm
understand
saying?
what you're saying, and
Okay,
I'm a land surveyor and civil engineer. I like to play in the woods and design leach fields, but I find most of my time is writing letters of intent. So my intent was to provide you a letter of intent as a guide for your board tonight, describing that we were going to adhere to the uses that are allowed in that zone, and if we're allowed to that. I can't, just like Mr. Moore's deal fell apart with the truck people, he has another deal for this flex space. The only thing that we have that's even 50% of reality at this point is the flex space development. The rest of all this stuff is speculation.
I know.
Give the board that we're not baiting and switch. So some people will show nothing on the plan except the flex space, and we're gonna have 60 acres of open land. We don't want to do that. So we're showing you what could happen with our best guess at this point. The only thing he has is the flex space. We could get you something to identify what the flex space use is gonna be. I don't know who's gonna sign it, or his buyer, but I have no problem providing you that. All I can tell you is this is conceptual. This is how it really works. And this is how, in every town, not just Rush. We come here with a concept. We ask for you guys for your opinion. The project evolves. It's a living document. We have to go to you, get zoned, come back with a planning board, work with the planning board. Hey, this doesn't fit. You gotta get a variance. Go to the building board, so it's a living thing until we get that approved. I don't even know if he wants to sell the lot to that buyer, he's gonna rent them. So those are questions that you're welcome to ask, but we'll find that out for it. But I'd love to have the opportunity to come back here, talk to all the people, answer their questions. If we have to go to a bigger room like we've done before, I'm fine with that. I do like give and take. I like it when people ask questions. I like when it's polite and things better, but we can hopefully get to a point like that.
If in 6 months you were to get the approval, would you build the road and put the flex space up without a tenant?
Great question. So the 6 months might get your approval. It's gonna take another 8 months to go through
I'm
planning.
saying hypothetical.
So I think that and I'd have to lean on Jack a little bit on that, but I think he sees the market and he might stretch himself to do it himself. Outside of his person, because he's tried to rezone this several times. And he sees the areas I told you about, Tech Drive and Avon. There's one in Webster that you see, the market is there. This product is just one. If you went on 332 in Farmington, you get off the thruway, there's a brand new one I did, brown, black, it's beautiful looking. The market's there, it's a need. And this close to the expressway, you can think about it. What if you were a salesman and you had samples or something? You were doing Corning run from Rochester, maybe you need a place to stockpile. There's so many uses for someone that needs a small space that's well maintained, safe. So to answer your question with a letter of intent, If there's some kind of guarantee that, you know, Jack will build these if he has to, and then lease them, I don't know, but we'll have to talk to him about that. But, you know, those are some of those questions I don't know.
Derek, what do you think? I gotta be open to a presentation. Your motion.
That's all we can ask. I appreciate it.
Well, we have to find a day that we can schedule a public hearing if that's the route we want to go. Looking into November, we have the first meeting in November. I don't know if you'd have enough time to give public notice for that. That's 2 weeks out. This is a long stretch.
Is that like the fourth?
It would be better.
The second, yeah, no, it's the one after that. The 9th, May. No, that doesn't make sense.
Be like the 7th, maybe? Or when, are these all Wednesdays?
Yeah, but then,
Meet on the second.
The one by Thanksgiving.
yeah, so it'd be,
Remove that, are we going to?
13th or 20th. I think we did. I think it's
it-
one day of
we
that.
won't have enough time to do it the
Yes.
We've
13th.
done that in the past. I don't.
What's
do
that?
So you're looking into December.
Well, we could do it in the second meeting in November, but that's the Monday before. Yeah, so it's the Monday before Thanksgiving, because we moved that meeting from that Wednesday right before.
Yeah,
Some people have a life and go places.
we're all checking our dates here. I might not be around.
Yeah.
You know, I could confer with Jack and can I work with Pam and working on a date, you know,
Would it be easier just to push it to December 11th?
it would be for me. I had to check, I don't know,
Sooner the better.
So it's either the 25th or the 11th.
back to the 25th here. I could do the 25th.
Kevin, can you tell us whether the town needs a referendum to do something like this or not? Can you look into that?
I can't remember off the top of my head, but I will look at that, let you know. I can let you know in a few minutes.
Okay.
Double check. I don't believe so, but I need to double check. I'll
Okay.
Speak on school.
I don't know if you need the boiler.
He got it fixed.
With the one pump not working at controlling the heats.
Yeah,
It's difficult.
yeah. Well, we appreciate it if you schedule a public hearing. If the 25th works, I'm available if it meets all the meeting requirements of the public notice. And if it has to switch to December, Bob and Weave on.
Fifth. We want to make a motion?
I so move to schedule a public hearing regarding the rezoning of the Moore property on West Henrietta Road for November 25th at 7:15 PM. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I'd like to, find out whether that's something that we can do without a referendum. And especially since it's specifically discussed in our comprehensive plan that we shouldn't do this.
Kevin, while you're looking that up, can we move forward with the meeting and then come back to do the final vote on that?
Yep.
We'll leave that open until we move forward.
I mean, that'll be I'm sorry.
Area, we can just, yes, the vote.
Yeah, no, say yes, you can move forward, you can cast a vote, you can still schedule a public hearing, and we can get the answer, and that won't necessarily deviate whether or not you hold a public hearing. It's gonna dictate what's gonna happen in order to approve the zoning.
Okay.
Councilwoman Morelli,
Aye.
Councilman Chase.
Aye.
Councilman Kies.
Aye.
Councilman Brown.
Aye.
Supervisor Williver.
Aye.
Right, and then as far as action steps for me, I'll try to provide a letter of intent from the prospective buyer regarding the flex space.
Thank you.
I'll provide that to the town.
That would probably be helpful to have for that
Yep.
public hearing.
Yeah, thank you. Have a great night.
Moving on to old business. We've been looking into a new phone system. Pam's been doing a lot of the work. We had a proposal from Spectrum. And then we got a proposal from our IT company, Pinpoint Group. The bit of a comparison, which I'm pretty sure I brought. Currently with Verizon, we're also playing Frontier for fax lines and for Lives at the Elevator. And to get all together for communications, we're spending $924 a month. Verizon came in, or I mean, sorry, Spectrum came in with their upgrade, the total said and done would be $762 a month. And the proposal from Steve Tanner at the Pinpoint Group, for the first 48 months of after the installation of this phone system, it would be $449 a month. And it would be that way for 48 months because we'd be paying off for the hardware for the phones and stuff. After that's paid off, it would be down to $302 a month.
So
Oh.
the first months are 449.
The first 4 years of the new system will be $449.
Okay.
After that, it'll drop to $302. And we're currently paying $924.
Yeah.
So that's the proposal suite. 3 different prices, and we need a motion if we're gonna go. Yep. No, with Pinpoint, the Pinpoint.
I don't have a resolution.
Yeah,
Just
the
wait.
phone.
I so move to authorize Supervisor Wolliver to sign a contract with Pinpoint Group to handle our phone systems. Do I have a second?
Second.
Councilwoman Morelli,
Aye.
Councilman Chase,
Aye.
Councilman Kies,
Aye.
Councilman Brown.
Aye.
Supervisor Williver.
Now the code committee is back in business. The original chart for the code committee needs to be updated because calls for, well, Scott's no longer a member of planning board and she's the chair of the code committee, so we need to make it legitimate for him to be part of the code committee. So we're altering the charge to include any previous member of the code committee could still be on the code committee. I think we have a resolution for that.
Yep.
Oh, yes.
I so move to modify composition of the town of Rush Code Committee to be comprised of up to 5 volunteer members consisting of 1 current or former member of the planning board, 1 current or former member of the comprehensive plan update committee, the town building inspector, 1 current or former member of the conservation board, and 1 current former member of the zoning board of appeals, subject to their respective interests and availabilities. Do I have a second?
I think that we don't have a zoning board member on that committee.
No, I think they declined, I believe.
So we're taking that off.
Yes.
Which one? Conservation?
Zoning.
Everything again.
So
They didn't have zoning before, but it says respective interest and availability.
Planning.
It's subject to respective interests and availabilities for each one of those categories. So if, in this instance, it sounds like your zoning board didn't have anybody that had the availability or interest in serving.
They didn't think it was appropriate for someone on the zoning board to be on.
To be changing the code.
Oh,
Did
so
not
they
be
didn't
involved.
want to be, so,
Conflict of interest.
okay, so is it this board's determination you want that removed from? Okay,
Correct.
yes, then you would just strike that.
Because it's a zoning board of appeals, how could they put themselves above something that they worked on?
You want me to read?
So
I'll just
it's,
take it out.
So just remove that and 1 current or former member from the zoning
Board of Appeals.
Right.
Removed.
And I think we should have two current or former members of the planning board. Scott's a former member and your mom is a current member. So it'd be two current or former members of the zoning, or of the planning board.
What do you want? Two
current or.
yeah.
Two members of the planning board. Scott, no, Karen. Oh, Karen? Yeah, okay. I'll go with that.
You want me to read it again?
Well,
Yeah.
that could be Scott too. Well, okay,
Yeah, Scott,
Right. Okay.
Yep.
Got it.
Okay,
Read it again.
Yep.
Got it. I so move to modify the composition of the Town of Rush Code Committee to be comprised of up to 5 volunteer members consisting of 2 current or former member of the planning board, 1 current or former member of the comprehensive plan update committee, the town building inspector, 1 current or former member of the conservation board, subject to their respective interests and availabilities. Do I have a second?
A second.
We've got it two. Councilwoman Morelli,
Aye.
Councilman Chase,
Aye.
Councilman Kies,
Aye.
Councilman Brown,
Aye.
Supervisor Wilbur,
aye. And we need a resolution to approve the surety bonds for town officials.
I make a motion that it be moved that the town board of the town of Rush hereby approves the surety bond form and amount of the official undertaken for the faithful performance of the duties of the town clerk and tax collector, deputy town clerk, assessor's clerk, and budget officer, as filled in the town clerk's office, type of undertaking, public official liability, employee dishonesty insurance company, Access Insurance Company, St. Paul Travelers. Around 250,000 for town clerk, tax collector, 250,000 for deputy town clerk, 250,000 for assessor's clerk, 125,000 for budget officer. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Councilwoman Morelli,
Aye.
Councilman Chase,
Aye.
Councilman Kies,
Aye.
Councilman Brown,
Aye.
Supervisor Wilbur,
Aye. Then we need a resolution to retain the appraisal services regarding tax Satori matter.
Certiorari.
Just like that.
Certiorari. It doesn't look like what it says.
I so move to retain Emerger, Newton, and Pigeon and Magyar Inc. to provide appraisal and consulting services in connection with tax
Certiorari.
matter for the property located at 300 Roswell Lane pursuant to the terms of the proposed engagement letter dated August 2nd, 2024. Do I have a second? I'll second that.
Do we need to discuss the terms of that and the cost or?
Do you have questions? Kevin, maybe you could explain things.
Okay.
Explain. I know Mrs. Weaver challenges her assessment.
Yes, and in order to help the town defend that challenge of the assessment, we'd like to engage an appraiser to provide an appraisal of the value of the property and based on how the town feels, to challenge her proposed assessment as part of the defense of the litigation.
So will this bind the property owner to this assessment?
What the resolution of the litigation will, yes, it will set the assessment for the property.
Okay, so
They're basically challenging the assessed value that the town put on the property. And in order to help defend that challenge, we'd like to have an appraisal conducted by an independent party that we're selecting. So that we can say, this is our value and this is how we got to our value, so that it can help us.
okay, in court, in litigation,
Yes,
okay.
as part of the
So it's not it's nothing that's been mandated yet by a judge that we do this.
No, this is
Okay.
something that we're trying to have additional evidence when we're before the judge, say, here's how we come up with our figure, and we'd have an appraisal to support that, as opposed to just having, it's not just having, but as opposed to having the assessor just have their information, we're having it independently verified.
And do we have to put an amount down on this resolution that this is gonna cost?
Yes, we can.
Because there's different
Yeah.
options.
This is the one that John recommended.
Okay,
I
So
think
not,
up
so
to
it
two
accounts
is,
an amount not to exceed $3,300.
okay. I wasn't sure where. Can we put that in the resolution? Add that to the resolution? That those specifics?
we haven't voted on it yet, so sure. Can you make an addition to it, or do you want?
You have to reread it. Sorry.
Feel pretty good. I just hit my truck. I so moved to read, well, now I got all these words on it. I moved to retain Emerger, Newton, Pigeon, and Magar, Inc. to provide appraisal and consulting services not to exceed $3,500 in connection with tax certiorari matter for the property located at 300 Roswell Lane pursuant to the terms of the proposed engagement letter dated August 2nd, 2024. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Councilwoman Morelli,
Aye.
Councilman Chase,
Aye.
Councilman Kais,
Aye.
Councilman Brown,
Aye.
Supervisor Williver.
Aye. And finally, we need a motion to authorize the court to apply for a JCAP grant. Mike's been working on this for a while. I think part of it has to do with disposing of records that we don't need to retain anymore. I'm not sure everything that's in there, but we apply for it every year and we generally get something.
Okay. I so moved to authorize the Rush Town Court to apply for a JCAP Justice Court Assistance Program grant in the 2024-2025 grant cycle up to $30,000. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Councilwoman Morelli,
Aye.
Councilman Chase,
Aye.
Councilman Kais,
Aye.
Councilman Brown.
Aye.
Supervisor Williver.
Aye.
See, Derek, it's not that hard.
Upcoming meetings, next town board meeting is November 13th. And that'll be followed by one the Monday before Thanksgiving on the 25th. Conservation Board meets on the 14th next month. The zoning board will meet on the 21st and the planning board will meet the 26th. Is that a good date? When's Thanksgiving?
It's 2 days after. The planning board still meeting on the Tuesday prior
Yeah.
to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they did
Yep.
change it.
Okay,
I did double check that because December they did move it.
Yeah.
But November they did not.
Yeah, it's still the 26th. And no vote is required. I didn't think so. I just wanted to verify.
I'm sorry, what?
No vote is required.
Oh.
We just need to, discuss the comprehensive plan and that aspect. Make your determination.
Right.
okay, having conducted all the town's business, make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
As a baby,
Yeah, how's the baby?
yes.
Yeah, don't get much sleep though.
No. We still need
Yes,
stuff.
it was a clock, but usually like 3 hours.
Oh, that's not too bad,
Yeah.
really.
But it's like midnight, 3 in the morning, 4.